Zachriel nervously shifted in his seat, his four antennae trembling with excitement. Today was the long-awaited day, the first lecture on intergalactic history at the Starfleet Academy. He looked around the auditorium, noting the diversity of life forms around him, from gaseous beings shimmering in special containers to crystalline creatures reflecting light in thousands of facets. Suddenly, the auditorium doors opened, and all conversations ceased. Professor Xylon entered, a creature with 6 eyes and blue scaly skin. His long tail gracefully swayed as he walked, and the tentacles on his head moved ever so slightly, like living antennae. Xylon was a legend of the Academy, known for his captivating lectures and deep knowledge of galactic history. "Greetings, young minds of the galaxy," he began, his voice deep and resonating, filling the space. "Today we will discuss one of the greatest mysteries of our universe, why the race known as humans is forbidden from participating in the galactic war." The class froze. Humans were a legend, a myth passed in whispers in dark corners of spaceports and on distant planets. Xylon continued. "Many believe that humans are too weak or primitive. Some even doubt their existence. But the truth is much more complex and terrifying than you can imagine." He activated the holographic projector. In the center of the auditorium appeared an image of a creature on 2 legs, without scales, tentacles, or additional limbs. The creature looked strangely vulnerable and threatening at the same time. 5,000 galactic cycles ago, Xylon began his story. Humans were invited to join the Galactic Federation. Our scouts discovered their planet, Earth, and were impressed by the speed of technological progress of this race. From primitive tools to interplanetary travel in just a few thousand years, it was unheard of. Zachriel noticed how his classmates leaned forward, absorbing every word of the professor. The Federation Council decided to give humans a chance. They were allowed to participate in a small border conflict between the Federation and the Zetko Empire. It was supposed to be a simple mission, to protect a colony on a remote planet from pirate raids. What happened next changed the galaxy forever. Xylon paused, his eyes clouding with memories. It seemed as if he was reliving those events again. Humans didn't just protect the colony. They annihilated the pirates. Completely. In a matter of days, a small contingent of Earthlings turned a well-organized pirate operation into a pile of space debris. Their cruelty, ingenuity, and absolute refusal to surrender shocked even the most experienced veterans of the Federation. The hologram changed, showing scenes of the battle. Zachriel and his classmates watched in horror as small human ships maneuvered between huge pirate cruisers, delivering precise and deadly strikes. "But the scariest part wasn't this," Xylon whispered. "When it was all over, when the dust had settled, the humans celebrated. They rejoiced in the destruction, reveled in the chaos. We realized that we had unleashed something terrible into the universe." The hologram changed again, showing a group of humans laughing and hugging against the backdrop of burning ship debris. From that day, the Federation Council made a unanimous decision. Humans must never again participate in galactic conflicts, not because they are weak, but because they are too dangerous, even to themselves. The class sat in stunned silence. Zachriel felt a chill run down his spine. "But that's not all," Xylon continued, his voice growing quieter. "After that incident, the Federation began to study Earth's history more deeply, and what we found horrified us even more. The hologram now showed scenes from Earth's history. Wars, revolutions, great battles of different eras. Throughout their short history, humans fought constantly. They killed each other for land, resources, ideologies, even for different interpretations of the same religious texts. They invented increasingly effective ways of destruction, and yet they created art of unseen beauty, music that touched the soul, literature that made one ponder the meaning of existence." Zachriel felt his view of the universe changing with every word of the professor. "Humans are a paradox," Xylon continued. "They are capable of incredible cruelty and at the same time of amazing kindness. They can destroy an entire planet for resources and at the same time give their lives to save an endangered species. They are chaos in its purest form, and that's why they are so dangerous." The hologram faded, leaving the class in semi-darkness. "But there's something else," said Xylon, his voice barely audible. Something that only the highest ranks of the Federation know. The thing is, humans, they are evolving. With each generation they become smarter, stronger, more adaptive, and we fear that one day they will outgrow us all. The class held its breath. Zakril felt his hearts, he had 3, start to beat faster. That's why the Federation made the decision to isolate Earth. We created a protective barrier around their solar system that prevents them from going beyond it. We contain them not because they are weak, but because we fear their strength. Xylon looked at each student. Remember this when you hear about humans. They are not a myth. They are not a legend. They are a warning. And we must do everything to ensure they never again leave the boundaries of their system. Suddenly, one of the students raised his hand, or what was considered a hand in his species. "Professor?" he asked in a trembling voice. "What if humans do find a way to overcome the barrier?" Xylon froze for a moment, his eyes flashing all colors of the spectrum, a sign of deep concern in his species. "Then, young Zetrak, we must all pray. Because if humans break out into the expanses of the galaxy, no one knows how it might end." The class sank into deep silence, each student pondering what they had heard. Zakril suddenly realized that his view of the universe had changed forever. He had always thought that the greatest threats came from the dark corners of space, from unknown forces beyond understanding. But now he understood that the greatest threat could be hiding on a small blue planet, isolated from the rest of the galaxy. The bell rang, marking the end of the lecture, but no one hurried to leave. The mystery of humans left them with questions that perhaps were better left unanswered. As the students finally began to disperse, Zakril approached Professor Xylon. "Professor," he began uncertainly, have you ever met a human?" Xylon slowly turned to him, his eyes glowing with a strange mixture of fear and admiration. "Yes, Zakril," he replied quietly. "Once, and it was the scariest and most fascinating experience of my life." Zakril wanted to ask more, but something in the professor's gaze made him fall silent. He realized that some secrets are better left unrevealed. Leaving the auditorium, Zakril couldn't shake the feeling that today he had touched something bigger than just a history lesson. He had touched a mystery that could change the fate of the entire galaxy, and somewhere out there, beyond the protective barrier, on a small blue planet, humans continued their journey, unaware that they were the greatest fear and the greatest hope for the entire universe. Several weeks had passed since that momentous lecture by Professor Xylon. Zakril couldn't shake off thoughts about humans. They haunted him in his dreams, appeared in every shadow, in every unfamiliar sound. One evening, working late in the quantum astrophysics laboratory, Zakril stumbled upon something strange. He was experimenting with a new algorithm for analyzing cosmic anomalies when his instruments detected an unusual signal. The signal was weak, almost imperceptible, but it undoubtedly came from beyond the protective barrier around Earth's solar system. Zakril's heart beat faster. Could it be? Had humans found a way to bypass the barrier? Without thinking too long, he copied the data to his personal device and decided to turn to the only person he could trust, Professor Cylon. The next day, after classes, Zakril nervously knocked on the door of the professor's office. "Come in," the familiar deep voice sounded. Zakril entered, his antennae trembling with excitement. "Professor, I've discovered something strange. I think you should take a look at this." Xylon listened attentively to Zakril's story and analyzed the data. His eyes flashed different colors, revealing deep concern. "Zakril," he finally said, "what you've discovered could change everything. We must act cautiously." Suddenly, the office door burst open with a bang. 3 high-ranking Federation officers stormed into the room. "Professor Xylon, you're under arrest for disclosing state secrets," one of them announced. "And you, student, will come with us for questioning." Zakril and Xylon exchanged quick glances. The professor's eyes read, "Be careful." They were separated and led down different corridors. Zakril was brought to a small, windowless room. There, a tall, slim alien with gray skin and huge black eyes was waiting for him. "My name is Agent Zor," he introduced himself, "and I represent a department you've never heard of. We deal with special cases. Zachriel nervously fidgeted in his chair. I don't understand what's happening. Zor leaned closer. You've stumbled upon something bigger than you can imagine, young Zachriel. The signal you detected. It's not just a leak from behind the barrier, it's a message from humans. Zachriel felt his three hearts almost stop. But how? We don't know, Zor replied. But this isn't the first signal. They're becoming stronger and more frequent, and we fear the barrier won't hold for long. Zachriel tried to process what he heard. So what now? What are you going to do? Zor straightened up and looked directly into Zachriel's eyes. We're going to contact them, and we need your help. My help? But why me? Because you're the only one who could detect this particular signal. You have a talent, Zachriel. A talent we desperately need. Zachriel felt his world turning upside down. Just yesterday, he was an ordinary student, and today he stands on the threshold of contact with the most dangerous race in the galaxy. And what if I refuse? He asked, trying to give his voice firmness. Zor smiled, and that smile made Zachriel shudder. Oh, you won't refuse because deep inside you know this is your destiny. You want to know the truth about humans just as much as we do. Zachriel realized the agent was right. Despite the fear, despite the danger, he wanted to know more. He wanted to meet humans. All right, he finally said. I'll help you. But on one condition, Professor Cylon must be part of this project. Zor thought for a moment, then nodded. Agreed. Now Zachriel, get ready. We're about to open doors that have been closed for millennia. And who knows what might come out from the other side. As they left the interrogation room, Zachriel felt something change in the air, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. In a laboratory hidden deep beneath the planet's surface, a team of the Federation's best scientists worked day and night, trying to decipher the humans' message. Zachriel and Professor Xylon were at the very center of these events. Days passed, then weeks. The messages were becoming clearer, but their content remained a mystery. It seemed that humans were using a code that defied any known decryption method. And then one day, when hope had almost faded, Zachriel noticed something strange in the signal structure. It was a pattern that repeated over and over again, but with slight variations. Professor, he exclaimed, calling Xylon over. Look at this. Doesn't this remind you of music? Xylon finished for him, his eyes widening in surprise. They're transmitting music to us. This discovery was a breakthrough. It turned out that humans had encoded their message in a complex symphony, each note of which carried a piece of information. When they finally deciphered the message, its content shocked all present. We know you're out there. We know you fear us, but we've changed. We're no longer the monsters we once were. Please give us a chance to prove it. Open the barrier. Let us show you who we've become. The hall filled with a buzz of voices. Some thought it was a trap. Others thought humans should be given a chance. Zachriel looked at Professor Xylon, seeking answers. The old scientist seemed deep in thought. What are we going to do? Zachriel asked. Xylon slowly turned to him. We'll do what science has always done, Zachriel. We'll explore the unknown despite the fear, because that's the only way we can move forward. And with these words, he approached the main control console and placed his hand on the lever that controlled the barrier. Who's with me? He asked, looking around the room. One by one, the scientists approached the console, placing their hands next to Xylon's. Zachriel was the last to approach. For science, he said. For the future. And together, they pulled the lever down. The barrier that had kept humans in isolation for millennia began to slowly dissolve. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to meet the race that had been forbidden for so long. A new era in the history of the universe was about to begin, and Zachriel was at its very epicenter. The barrier dissolved into a shimmering mist, then vanished completely. For a moment, an eerie silence fell over the control room. Zachriel could hear his 3 hearts pounding in his chest. Suddenly, the main view screen lit up. A face appeared, unmistakably human, yet somehow different from the historical records. This human had an otherworldly grace, their eyes glowing with an intelligence that seemed almost supernatural. "Greetings, citizens of the galaxy," the human spoke, their voice resonating with a harmony that sent shivers down Zacril's spine. "We are the descendants of those you once knew as humans. We come in peace and with a sincere desire for reconciliation." Professor Xylon stepped forward, his tentacles quivering with a mix of fear and excitement. "I am Professor Xylon of the Galactic Federation. We received your message, but I must ask, how have you changed? How can we trust that you're not the same beings who nearly destroyed a sector of our galaxy millennia ago?" The human smiled, a gesture that was both reassuring and unsettling. "A fair question, Professor. In the thousands of years since our isolation, we have undergone a profound transformation. We have merged our consciousness with artificial intelligence, transcended our physical limitations, and most importantly, we have confronted the darkness within ourselves." As if to demonstrate, the human's form shimmered and changed, becoming a being of pure energy before solidifying again. "We no longer wage war, for we have found that true strength lies in unity, not conflict. We seek to join the galactic community not as conquerors, but as peacekeepers and problem solvers." Zacril couldn't contain himself any longer. But why now? Why seek contact after all this time? The human turned their gaze to Zacril, and he felt as if those eyes were peering into his very soul. "Because, young one, the galaxy faces a threat greater than any it has known before. A threat that we believe only humanity, with its unique history of overcoming its own destructive nature, can help a series of images flashed on the screen. Dark, shadowy entities consuming entire star systems, leaving nothing but cold, dead space in their wake. We call them the Void Eaters. They exist outside of normal space-time and feed on the very essence of life and consciousness. They have already consumed several galaxies in neighboring dimensions, and now they have set their sights on this one." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Professor Xylon raised his hands for silence. "If what you say is true, why should we believe that humanity, with its history of violence, is the solution and not part of the problem?" The human's expression grew solemn. "Because, Professor, our violent past is precisely what makes us uniquely qualified to face this threat. We understand the darkness because we have faced it within ourselves and overcome it. We have developed technologies and philosophies that allow us to confront chaos without being consumed by it." Zacril found himself nodding. It made a strange sort of sense. Who better to fight the darkness than those who had walked through it and emerged on the other side? "We propose an alliance," the human continued. "We will share our knowledge, our technology, and our strength. In return, we ask for trust and the opportunity to prove ourselves as allies." Professor Xylon turned to the assembled scientists and officials. "The decision we make today will shape the future of our entire galaxy. We must choose wisely." Zacril stepped forward, his antennae quivering with determination. "Professor, I believe we should give them a chance. If what they say about these Void Eaters is true, we need all the help we can get. And if humans have truly changed as they claim, rejecting them could be the biggest mistake we ever make." One by one, the others in the room voiced their agreement. Even Agent Zor, who had been watching silently from the corner, gave a curt nod. Professor Xylon turned back to the screen. "Very well. On behalf of the Galactic Federation, we accept your proposal for an alliance. But know this, we will be watching closely. Any sign of reverting to your old ways will be met with immediate action." The human bowed their head. "We understand and accept your terms. We look forward to working together for the betterment of all sentient life in the galaxy." As the transmission ended, Zacril felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The galaxy as they knew it was about to change forever. Humanity, the forbidden race, was returning to the cosmic stage. And with them came the promise of salvation from an unimaginable threat, or perhaps the seeds of the galaxy's destruction. Only time would tell which path this new alliance would take. But one thing was certain. Zacril and his companions were now at the forefront of the most significant event in galactic history. The adventure was just beginning. In the days following the momentous first contact, the Galactic Federation was abuzz with activity. News of humanity's return and the looming threat of the Void Eaters spread rapidly, causing equal parts excitement and panic across the galaxy. Zakril found himself at the center of it all. As one of the key figures in establishing contact with humans, he was now part of the newly formed Human Galactic Integration Committee. His life had changed dramatically, from a curious student to a crucial liaison between two civilizations. The first human delegation was set to arrive at the Galactic Federation's headquarters on the planet Zendora. Zakril stood beside Professor Xylon in the grand reception hall, his antennae twitching nervously as they awaited the humans' arrival. "Remember, Zakril," Xylon whispered, "despite their assurances, we must remain vigilant. The fate of our galaxy may well depend on the success of this alliance." Before Zakril could respond, a shimmer of light appeared in the center of the hall. It expanded into a swirling vortex of energy, and from it emerged three figures. As the light faded, Zakril got his first in-person look at the evolved humans. They were humanoid in basic shape, but their skin seemed to shift and shimmer like the surface of a soap bubble. Their eyes glowed with an inner light, and an aura of energy surrounded them. The leader of the delegation stepped forward. "Greetings, friends. I am Ambassador Alara. With me are Dr. Zhen, our chief scientist, and Commander Axios, our military strategist. We come ready to work together against the threat that faces us all." Professor Xylon bowed slightly. "Welcome to Zendora. I am Professor Xylon, and this is Zakril, one of our most promising young scientists. We have much to discuss." As they moved to the conference room, Zakril couldn't help but notice the reactions of other aliens they passed. Some looked on in awe, others in fear, and still others with barely concealed hostility. The return of humanity was not universally welcomed. In the conference room, holographic displays sprang to life, showing the extent of the Void Eaters' destruction in neighboring dimensions. Dr. Zhen, the human scientist, began to explain. "The Void Eaters exist in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously present and absent. They feed on the very fabric of space-time, consuming not just matter and energy, but the potential for existence itself." Zakril's mind reeled at the implications. But how can we fight something that isn't fully in our reality? Commander Axios stepped forward. His form seemed more solid than the others, with lines of energy pulsing beneath his skin. "That's where humanity's unique evolution comes in. In our isolation, we developed the ability to partially phase out of normal space-time. We can engage the Void Eaters on their own turf, so to speak." "And you believe this makes you the only ones who can defeat them?" Professor Xylon asked, skepticism evident in his voice. Ambassador Alara nodded. "Not alone, no. But our abilities, combined with the diverse strengths of the Galactic Federation, give us a fighting chance. We need your technology, your resources, and most importantly, your trust." The meeting continued for hours, with plans being made and strategies discussed. As they talked, Zakril noticed something strange. Whenever the humans spoke of particularly emotional topics, the air around them seemed to ripple, and he caught fleeting glimpses of something, shapes and colors that didn't quite make sense to his eyes. Finally, as the meeting was wrapping up, Zakril couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "Ambassador Alara, if I may ask, what are those manifestations I see around you when you speak?" The humans exchanged glances, and Alara smiled. "Perceptive, young Zakril. What you're seeing is a side effect of our evolved state. Our emotions and thoughts can sometimes bleed into the physical world as energy patterns. It's part of how we can interact with different layers of reality." "Fascinating," Professor Xylon murmured. "Your evolution has taken you further than we imagined." As the meeting concluded, plans were set in motion. A joint task force would be assembled, combining the best minds and strongest warriors from across the Galactic Federation with the evolved humans. Their mission: to develop weapons and strategies to combat the Void Eaters before they reached this galaxy. Over the next few weeks, Zakril found himself working closely with Dr. Zhen in a specially designed laboratory. They were attempting to merge Zakril's breakthrough in quantum signal detection with human phase-shifting technology. If we can create a device that detects the Void Eater's quantum signatures and then phase shifts to their reality, we might be able to predict their movements, Dr. Jen explained, her form shimmering with excitement. Zakril nodded, his antennae vibrating in concentration as he made adjustments to the device. And if we can predict them, we can fight them, maybe even prevent them from fully materializing in our space. As they worked, Zakril found his initial wariness of the humans fading. Dr. Jen was brilliant, kind, and possessed a sense of humor that Zakril found himself appreciating more and more. She told him stories of Earth, of the long and difficult path humanity had taken to evolve beyond their violent nature. It wasn't easy, she said one day, her eyes distant. Merging with AI, transcending our physical forms. Many were lost in the process, but we knew it was necessary, not just for our survival, but for our redemption. Zakril felt a wave of empathy. You carry a heavy burden, the sins of your ancestors. Dr. Jen nodded, a sad smile on her face. We do, but it also gives us strength. We know the cost of unchecked aggression, of letting our darker nature rule us. That's why we're so committed to protecting life in all its forms. As the days passed, progress was made. The Joint Task Force developed new technologies at an unprecedented rate. Weapons that could phase between realities, shields that could withstand the Void Eater's entropic touch, and sensors that could detect the slightest ripple in the fabric of space-time. But not everyone was pleased with the rapid advancements. Zakril began to hear whispers of discontent. Some members of the Galactic Federation felt that humanity was gaining too much influence too quickly. Others feared that this was all an elaborate ruse, that humans would turn on them once the Void Eaters were defeated. These tensions came to a head during a high-level briefing. Representatives from all major races were present, along with the human delegation. Commander Axios was presenting the latest battle plans when Grondar, a warlike species known for their distrust of outsiders, interrupted. How do we know this isn't all a deception? Grondar's representative growled. For all we know, you humans could be in league with these Void Eaters. This could be an elaborate plot to weaken our defenses. The room erupted in shouts and arguments. Zakril watched in dismay as years of mistrust and fear bubbled to the surface. Just as it seemed violence might break out, Ambassador Alara stepped forward. Enough! Her voice resonated with a power that silenced the room instantly. The air around her crackled with energy, and for a moment, Zakril saw not just Alara, but countless versions of her, echoing through different layers of reality. We understand your fear, she said, her voice softer now, but no less intense. We've given you reason to mistrust us in the past, but look into my mind. See the truth of our intentions. To Zakril's amazement, Alara's form began to glow, and tendrils of light extended from her, touching each being in the room. Suddenly, Zakril was overwhelmed with visions and emotions. The pain of humanity's violent past, the struggle to evolve, the genuine desire to make amends, and the terrifying threat of the Void Eaters. When the visions faded, the mood in the room had shifted dramatically. The Grondar representative, looking shaken, bowed his head. We were wrong to doubt you. Your pain, your struggle. It's not unlike our own. Ambassador Alara smiled gently. We are not so different, any of us. And it's those similarities, along with our differences, that make us strong. The Void Eaters seek to destroy all that makes life unique and beautiful. We must stand together, or we will fall alone. The crisis was averted, and the alliance strengthened. As the meeting adjourned, Zakril felt a new sense of hope. He caught Dr. Zhen's eye across the room, and she gave him a warm smile. Later that evening, as Zakril stood on a balcony overlooking the glittering cityscape of Zendora, Professor Xylon joined him. Quite a day, the professor said, his tentacles waving gently in the night breeze. Zakril nodded. I never imagined I'd be part of something like this. It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Xylon placed a comforting hand on Zakril's shoulder. You've done well, my young friend. Your curiosity and open-mindedness have played a crucial role in this alliance. But remember, the real challenges lie ahead. As if in response to Xylon's words, alarms suddenly blared across the city. Zakril's communication device buzzed urgently. It was Dr. Zhen. Zakril, we've detected a massive quantum disturbance in the Omega sector. It's them, the Void Eaters. They're here. Zakril felt a chill run down his spine. The moment they had been preparing for had arrived sooner than anyone had anticipated. As he rushed back inside, following Professor Xylon to the command center, Zakril realized that everything was about to change. The Alliance of Humanity and the Galactic Federation was about to face its first true test, and the fate of not just their galaxy, but of all existence, hung in the balance. As Zakril entered the command center, he saw organized chaos. Beings from all races were working together, coordinating defenses and strategizing. In the center of it all stood Ambassador Alara, Commander Axios, and Dr. Zhen, their forms shimmering with barely contained energy. "Report!" Xylon called out as they approached. Commander Axios turned, his eyes glowing with an intense light. "The Void Eaters have breached the quantum barrier in the Omega sector. They're consuming everything in their path. We've never seen them manifest in such numbers before." Dr. Zhen pulled up a holographic display. "Our sensors are detecting massive space-time distortions. Entire star systems are simply winking out of existence." Zakril felt a wave of dread wash over him. This was it. The moment that would define not just his life, but the fate of all life in the galaxy. Ambassador Alara's voice cut through the tension. "This is what we've prepared for. Humanity will lead the charge into the quantum realm to engage the Void Eaters directly. The Galactic Federation forces will provide support and defend against any incursions into normal space." As the orders were given and ships began to launch, Zakril found himself being ushered towards a specialized vessel. Dr. Zhen was at his side. "We need you, Zakril," she said urgently. "Your insights into quantum signaling could be crucial in coordinating our attacks across different phases of reality." As they boarded the ship, Zakril saw beings from all races working side by side with humans. The distinctions between species seemed to fade in the face of this existential threat. The ship hummed to life, and Zakril felt a strange sensation as it phased partially out of normal space-time. Through the viewscreen, he saw the fabric of reality itself tear open, revealing the swirling chaos of the quantum realm. And there, in that impossible space between realities, Zakril saw them. The Void Eaters. They were darkness given form, anti-existence that hungered for all that was. For a moment, Zakril felt his mind recoil from the sheer alienness of what he was witnessing. But then he felt a hand on his shoulder. Dr. Zhen stood beside him, her form glowing with determination. "Remember, Zakril, we face this together. Every race, every being united against the darkness." Zakril nodded, pushing aside his fear. He turned to his console, fingers flying over the controls as he began to coordinate the quantum signals that would guide their attack. The battle that followed was like nothing Zakril could have imagined. Ships phased in and out of reality, weapons fired beams of pure probability, and beings from across the galaxy fought side by side against the encroaching void. In the midst of the chaos, Zakril saw acts of incredible heroism. A Grandar warship sacrificed itself to save a human vessel. A group of gaseous beings from the Nebula Collective merged their consciousnesses with human pilots to guide them through impossible maneuvers. And through it all, humanity's evolved abilities shone. They danced between realities, striking at the Void Eaters in ways that defied comprehension. Zakril watched in awe as Ambassador Alara, now on the front lines, summoned what looked like a miniature sun between her hands, using it to burn away swaths of the cosmic destroyers. But the Void Eaters were relentless. For everyone they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Zakril's heart sank as he saw entire fleets blink out of existence, consumed by the insatiable hunger of their enemy. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, Dr. Zhen's voice cut through the din of battle. "Zakril, I have an idea. Your quantum signaling, if we can amplify it through the human's phase-shifting abilities, we might be able to create a resonance cascade." Zakril's mind raced, seeing the possibilities. A quantum lockout. We could seal them in a pocket dimension. Working feverishly, Zakril and Dr. Zhen reconfigured their systems. They sent out the call to all human ships, "Channel your phase-shifting energy into the quantum signal." As the signal built, Zachriel felt the ship vibrate with power. He looked out the view screen and saw streams of energy connecting all the Allied ships, human and non-human alike. The energy coalesced into a giant, pulsing web that began to envelop the Void Eaters. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to groan under the strain. Zachriel held his breath, hoping against hope that their desperate plan would work. With a flash that seared itself into Zachriel's memory, the energy web collapsed inward. There was a moment of absolute silence, and then, the Void Eaters were gone. Where once there had been a swarm of cosmic destroyers, there was now only empty space, sealed off from the rest of reality. Cheers erupted across all frequencies. They had done it. The impossible had been achieved. Humanity and the Galactic Federation, working together, had defeated an enemy that had consumed entire galaxies. As their ship phased back into normal space, Zachriel felt a profound sense of change. He looked around at the beings he had fought beside, humans, Grandars, gaseous entities, and countless others. They were no longer separate races, but a united galactic community. In the days that followed, as the galaxy began to rebuild and recover, Zachriel found himself in high demand. His role in the final battle had not gone unnoticed, but more than the accolades, he cherished the friendships he had formed, especially with Dr. Jen, whose brilliance and compassion continued to amaze him. One evening, as they stood watching the sunset on Zendora, Dr. Jen turned to Zachriel. "You know, when we humans first returned to the galactic stage, we hoped to find redemption for our past. But we found something even greater, a future.